I was nervous. Anna, my wife of 15 years, had told me to meet her at the Old Oak Cafe at 3 o'clock. I knew the bar would be almost empty at that hour, and whatever she had to tell me wouldn't involve partying. And I was right. We had met at this place 17 years ago, and I had a bad feeling. I suspected she was cheating on me with someone from her work. I feared this meeting would confirm my worst suspicions. Over the past few months, I had noticed many signs. Late nights at the office, where she worked as a secretary for her boss, a lack of interest in sex, at least with me, new provocative outfits in her closet that she never wore around me, and a significant decrease in communication. We barely spoke, even at meals, which she attended less and less frequently. For the past few months, it had mostly been just me and the kids, John, who was 12, and Sarah, who was 10, waiting for her rare visits with some excuse and perhaps a dessert from the store for the kids. Her neglect of me was one thing, but what really angered me was her pushing the children to the background. That day, when I pulled into the Old Oak Cafe, there were only a few cars in the parking lot. I resolved to stay calm. She was going to say and do what I suspected, and I was ready. I suspected it would be a confession of infidelity based on a conversation I had partially overheard 2 nights before. Yeah, it's okay, I agree. Friday, yes, I will bring him there, I heard her whispering on the phone. And here it was, Friday, 3 o'clock, and she had brought me here. I sat in the car for a few moments, thinking about what to do if she was indeed cheating. My father's advice came to me. Do nothing, son, unless you know what to do. Say nothing. Let your opponent figure it out. The less you say, the more they will worry. And if they don't worry, then they are vulnerable, and you can make plans to handle things at a time and place of your choosing. Remember, if you open your mouth, they will know what you're thinking immediately, even if you don't realize it. Just shut up and walk away. Handle business later, after you have all the facts and your plans are in place. I smiled. God, how I loved that man. I knew he was watching over me at that very moment. I said a silent prayer of thanks for his advice. Inside, I saw her sitting at the bar with a man I didn't recognize. That wasn't surprising. My company, Steinbeck Incorporated, which I had founded 12 years ago, took up all my time during the day, and I had little opportunity to mingle with the folks at her workplace. I was an electrical engineer, and my company designed wiring and other electrical schemas for a dozen construction companies needing my services. I walked over to them. She sensed my presence and turned. "Hello, Mark," she said. Not "hello, darling," no peck on the cheek, just "hello, Mark." "Hi, darling," I said pointedly. "What's up?" The man turned to face me. "Mr. Steinbeck, or would you prefer I call you Mark? We brought you here to let you know that your wife and I have been having sex for some time. She has made it clear that she is tired of sneaking around and making excuses, so I convinced her to just tell you." As I said, I was halfway prepared for this, and the recorder in my jacket pocket gave me an edge I hoped for. I said nothing. After all, Dad was watching, and I didn't want him mad at me for being stupid. "Mark," Anna said, waiting for me to say something, but I remained silent. She must have decided I was in shock or something, so she started talking. "Mark, it has been so hard keeping this from you. I don't want you to feel hurt. I have no intention of leaving you. It's just that sex with Jake here is too good to give up. I hope you understand. I can't keep this from you any longer. You deserve to know." I wasn't sure how aware she was of how stupid her argument sounded. Anna hadn't finished college for obvious reasons, but I had never considered her actually dumb until that moment. As for the genius she was trading me in for, enough said. I walked to the end of the bar, where the barkeep was trying not to hear what he couldn't help but hear. I ordered what was on tap. He brought it. I sipped it, saying nothing. The two of them watched me. I could see confusion on their faces. I finished my beer and left. I could feel their eyes following me as I exited the building. I felt good for the first time in months. I felt I had the upper hand. I might have been imagining it, but that was definitely how I felt. I went straight home. The kids would be waiting for me. I kissed the kids hello and laughed and told them it was going to be a good weekend for them. They yelled and cheered, and we went to get ice cream. I told them of my plan, which I had formulated earlier that day. They would be staying with their Aunt Susan and Uncle Jack for the weekend. They loved my sister and her husband, an ex-Army Ranger, and they loved them. Sue and Jack couldn't have children, and so John and Sarah had become their favorite people in the whole wide world. I knew that Sue and Jack were going camping for the weekend, and now the kids were going with them, which would give me the chance I needed to handle the things that had to be handled. With the kids safely off with their aunt and uncle, I had the weekend to myself to figure out my next steps. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened at the bar. Anna's nonchalance, her utter disregard for our family, and her casual betrayal ate away at me. But I knew I had to stay calm and collected. I had a plan to execute, and the first step was gathering more evidence. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation in my mind. How could she think I would accept her infidelity? I thought back to the years we had spent together, the dreams we had shared. It all seemed meaningless now, but I couldn't let my emotions control me. I had to be smart. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Henry Morgan. Henry had been our family lawyer for years, but now I needed him for something much more personal. I explained the situation, and he agreed to meet me immediately. Henry was known for his tenacity and sharp legal mind, and I trusted him completely. "Mark, I'm sorry to hear about this. It's never easy, especially when kids are involved," Henry said as he ushered me into his office. "I need to make sure I have everything lined up before I confront her," I replied, handing over the recording device. "I recorded our conversation yesterday. It's all on here." Henry listened to the recording, nodding occasionally. "This will definitely help your case. We need to gather as much evidence as possible. Do you have any other proof?" "I caught them in the act," I said, feeling a pang of anger. "I took pictures through the sliding glass doors at the back of the house. They didn't even try to hide it." "Good," Henry said. "The more evidence we have, the better. Since this isn't a no-fault state, we can use this to our advantage in the divorce proceedings." Henry's words gave me some comfort. At least there would be consequences for her actions. He outlined the next steps. We would file for divorce, citing infidelity. He would draft a restraining order to keep her away from the house and the kids, and we would serve her at work to ensure maximum impact. "Hit them hard, hit them fast, and leave them bewildered," Henry said with a grim smile. "We'll make sure she understands the gravity of her actions." Feeling a bit more in control, I left Henry's office and drove back home. I needed to prepare for what was to come. I decided to install a voice-activated recorder in the kitchen, near the phone. If Anna called Jake, I wanted to catch every word. Back at the house, I carefully hid the recorder and went about my day. The house felt empty without the kids, but I knew they were in good hands. As I waited for Anna to come home, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and dread. How would she react? Would she try to deny everything? Or would she continue to justify her actions? Anna came home late that evening. I heard her car pull into the driveway and then the sound of the front door opening. She called out to me, but I stayed in my office listening. After a few minutes, she knocked on the door. "Mark, can we talk?" she asked, her voice hesitant. I opened the door and let her in. "What is it, Anna?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. She looked nervous, wringing her hands. "I know you're angry, but I just want to explain. It's not what you think." "Not what I think?" I replied, raising an eyebrow. "You've been cheating on me, Anna. What else is there to think?" She sighed, looking down at the floor. "It's just, I felt so lonely, Mark. You were always working and I needed someone to talk to. Jake was there for me. He made me feel alive again." Her words stung, but I kept my composure. "And you think that justifies betraying our family?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "I know I've made mistakes, but I never wanted to hurt you or the kids. I still love you, Mark. I want to make this work." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You expect me to forgive you? To just forget everything?" "I'm asking for a chance," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Please, Mark, for the sake of our children." Her plea was almost convincing, but I knew better. I had seen the way she looked at Jake, heard her conversations with him. There was no going back. But I needed her to think there was a possibility, at least for now. "All right, Anna," I said slowly. "I'll think about it. But you need to give me some space." She nodded, relief washing over her face. "Thank you, Mark. I'll do whatever it takes." She left my office, and I waited until I heard her go upstairs. I retrieved the recorder and listened to the conversation she had earlier that day. As expected, she had called Jake. Their conversation was brief but revealing. She told him she loved him, that she was trying to convince me to accept their relationship. Hearing those words solidified my resolve. There was no turning back now. I had to protect my kids and myself. The next few days would be crucial. Early Monday morning, I left the house before Anna woke up. I headed to Henry's office to finalize our plans. The papers were ready, and Henry had arranged for a process server to deliver them to Anna at her workplace. There would be no way for her to avoid the public humiliation. As I waited in the hallway outside her office, I felt a strange sense of calm. The server walked past me, not knowing who I was, and entered the office. I heard him ask, "Are you Mrs. Anna Steinbeck?" followed by her affirmative response. He handed her the manila envelope and said, "You're served." I stepped into view just as she opened the envelope. Her face paled, and she began to cry. Her boss, coming out of his office, tried to console her. When she saw me, her eyes widened in shock. "Mark, why?" she sobbed. I couldn't resist one last jab. "Because I deserve better, Anna," I said, echoing my father's words. Then I turned and walked away, feeling a sense of closure. I wasn't there, but I heard later that Jake had been served in a similar fashion. He fainted when he realized the gravity of the situation. He eventually lost everything: his wife, kids, house, job, everything. Driving home, I felt a mix of emotions. There was still a long road ahead, but for the first time in months, I felt hopeful. I had taken the first steps to reclaim my life, and I was determined to see it through. As I drove home, a strange car in the driveway caught my attention. It had to be Jake's. It was getting dark, and I wondered if I could be lucky enough to catch them again. I parked a few houses down and approached the house as quietly as possible. The lights were out, and I saw Rex, my next-door neighbor, pulling his trash out to the curb. Rex was a cop. I stood directly beside the strange car and waved at Rex. He waved back, noting the unfamiliar car. Another witness, I thought. I approached the house through the backyard, making it look like I was retrieving my trash bins. As I neared the sliding glass doors at the back, I saw them. Anna and Jake were in the front room, completely oblivious to the world outside. I pulled out my phone and took several pictures through the glass. Modern technology was on my side, and I captured everything. After taking enough photos, I put my phone away and entered the house noisily through the sliding door. They heard me, turned, and looked at me, but continued their activity. Their brazenness was infuriating. I went upstairs to cool off, seething but silent. About 15 minutes later, I heard the front door open and close, followed by the roar of Jake's engine as he sped off. I waited a couple of minutes more, then went back downstairs to the kitchen. I heard the shower running as I passed the downstairs bathroom. I poured myself a cup of coffee and waited. This was going to be interesting. 10 minutes later, Anna joined me in the kitchen. She looked at me, her expression softening. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice gentle. I sipped my coffee, saying nothing. Her concern for me seemed almost genuine, but I couldn't forget what I had seen. Her lack of concern for the kids was even more telling. "Mark, we have to talk," she said, sitting down at the table. "The kids are of my sisters, just so you know." "What?" I said, pretending to be surprised. "Oh, yes, I noticed they weren't here when I got home." She looked flustered. "Are you okay? I just wanted to be upfront and honest with you. I didn't like sneaking around. You're a good man and you deserve better. It's just physical, Mark, only physical. I will deny you nothing when we are together. And Jake knows that and is okay with it. He's a good man." I couldn't resist. "So, I can be intimate with my lawfully wedded wife, and Jake is okay with that. Well, that's very nice of him." "No need to be sarcastic, Mark, but yes, you're right. I deserve better," she said, trying to maintain her composure. I was laughing inside but kept a calm and reflective demeanor on the outside. "You're not a fool, or whatever," she said. "You're my husband, a good father, and I love you." "Save it, Anna," I said, standing up. "I'm going out. Don't wait up for me." I had to get out of there. I couldn't stand to be near her. She was dead to me. Monday, it would all be over, and she would be history. Retracing my steps from earlier in the day, I went back to the Old Oak Cafe. The same barkeep was on duty. I took my place at the end of the bar, and the place was crowded, especially for a Tuesday night. "What's up?" I asked the barkeep, indicating the crowd. "Ladies' night," he replied, "and the wolves are out." He nodded towards a dark corner. The lighting was dim, but I saw him, Jake, making out with one of the ladies. The cheater was cheating on the other cheater. Why was I not surprised? Or maybe he wasn't cheating. Maybe Anna knew he had other interests. "I overheard that stuff earlier today," the barkeep said. "Man, if you need a witness." "Thanks. Maybe I will," I said. "My wife pulled that crap on me a few years ago," he continued. "But I didn't have anybody to stand with me, so I got screwed pretty bad in court. Got to keep this place, though, so that was something, I guess. It'd be good if half of what I make didn't go to alimony." We talked off and on for the next 4 hours. I made a mental note to talk to Henry about maybe getting this guy some justice if he helped me nail Jake and Anna. We had to stick together. Jake never noticed me at the bar. I managed to get some good shots of him with his little side chick. I would use them to show Anna if she thought she was exclusive with him. But that would have to wait until after the big showdown on Monday. I got home around 4 in the morning. Josh, the barkeep, and I had shared a few more cups of coffee after closing. He lived upstairs from the bar, so he had nowhere to go, and since he was living alone, I was a good candidate for late-night conversation. I liked the guy. Plus, he was a damn good bartender, a major plus in my view. I was furious at Anna, but I wanted to sleep in my own bed, not in the guest room. There's something about a man's own bed. Anna knew this about me, which might be why she had been intimate in the front room instead of upstairs. I slid into bed beside her. She was awake. I felt her hand reach for me, but I jerked it away and rolled over, falling asleep. She must have done the same. The light streaming in through the cracks between the window curtains woke me. It was almost 8 o'clock, and I could smell bacon frying in the kitchen. I got up, showered, dressed, and went downstairs. Anna was in a good mood, probably thinking everything was all right, or at least that our marriage wasn't terminal. "Hi, sleepyhead," she said, smiling. "Morning," I replied. "Smells good." Well, it does, I thought. I was hungry. It might be the last day of our married life, but I didn't have to be mopey about it. The stuff would hit the fan tomorrow, but today was going to be a good day. I just knew it. "I'll be here all day today for you," she said, as if it was a special favor to me since I was being so reasonable. "Oh yes, and if you're good, you might get really lucky," she said, giggling. I didn't know whether to laugh or be sick to my stomach. How could this cheating woman actually think I would consciously accept what she was selling? I giggled back at her. "I have to take my car into the shop later this morning. I need new brakes." "Oh, I thought we might. Maybe later," she said, trailing off. I had to figure out a way to avoid her, and it wasn't going to be easy. I really didn't want to be intimate with her, but I suppose I could endure it if I absolutely had to, just to keep her off balance. Before leaving to get the brake job, which wasn't a lie, I hid my little voice-activated recorder near the kitchen phone. I figured if she called Jake, that would be the phone she'd use. I was right. God, how I loved the intrigue. 3 hours later, I was back. I retrieved the recorder while she was taking out the trash and went into my office to listen to what had been caught. It was hurtful hearing her say she loved him. Mighty hurtful, especially since I knew he didn't care about her. I couldn't wait to show her the dated pictures I took of him and his chick the night before. That would put a crimp in her style. "Hi, it's me," she said on the recording. "Yes, he's gone out to do something with the car." "I don't know, Jake, he might not want to." Yes, I will try. He loves me, so maybe. Okay, I understand. I just don't want to lose him. I don't know, maybe we went too far shoving it in his face like that. I know, but okay, bye. I love you too. I sat there in my office in a state of wonder. I had married an idiot. It was embarrassing. I wasn't sure now if I even should divorce her. How could anyone that foolish be held responsible for her actions? No, the hurt was too deep. The in-your-face audacity of the pair made any kind of reconciliation impossible. And then there were the children. She clearly didn't care about them. Unforgivable. I was up and out of the house before she even woke up the next morning. It was Monday, and soon it would be the living end for her and her lover. I first went to the office to let my secretary, Beth, know I would be out for the rest of the day. Being the boss had its upside. The first stop was Henry's office. He had news. Malcolm, his part-time private investigator, had gotten some dirt on Jake. He was married and had 6 kids, believe it or not, and his wife had the money and the family connections. A housewife 10 years his senior, she apparently had no clue about his philandering. I instructed Henry to take him down big time and also gave him my latest recording and my cell phone with the pictures. He smiled at that. I also mentioned that I might have a special job for him and Malcolm after the dust settled. I knew that Sue and Jack would get the kids off to school. It was having to talk to them later in the day that scared me, but there was no avoiding it. It had to be done. Henry had arranged for the 2 lovers to be served at work. There was a restraining order against her coming back to the house and against him as well. The papers were set to be delivered just before lunchtime. I asked Henry to make sure it was done as loudly and with as much fanfare as possible. I wanted the 2 lovers to be humiliated. I also asked that he make any and all evidence against the pair available to Jake's wife. What she did with it would be up to her. God, how I wanted to be there when my wife was served. Then I thought, why not? I was in the hall when the server arrived. I didn't know him, and he didn't know me, so he just walked right past me to the office where my wife worked, the boss's office. Excuse me, are you Mrs. Anna Steinbeck? Yes, I am, she said, smiling. I was watching from the doorway, and she didn't see me at first, since she was turned to speak with the server. He handed her a manila envelope. You're served. Her face clouded. She looked at the envelope she held in her hand and opened it. She gasped and began to cry, then sobbed, collapsing into her chair. Her boss, coming out at that moment, saw and tried to console her. I made myself more visible. She saw me and her eyes widened in shock. Mark, why? She sobbed. I couldn't resist one last jab. Because I deserve better, Anna, I said, echoing my father's words. Then I turned and walked away, feeling a sense of closure. I wasn't there, but I heard later that Jake had been served in a similar fashion. He fainted when he realized the gravity of the situation. He eventually lost everything. His wife, kids, house, job, everything. Driving home, I felt a mix of emotions. There was still a long road ahead, but for the first time in months, I felt hopeful. I had taken the first steps to reclaim my life, and I was determined to see it through. After Anna was served, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Despite everything, we had shared a life together, and it was painful to see it end this way. But I had to stay focused on the future, for my sake and for the sake of our children. The next few weeks would be critical in ensuring that Anna faced the consequences of her actions while securing a stable future for John and Sarah. As planned, I met with Henry and Malcolm the day after the papers were served. Malcolm had more information on Jake. Not only was he married with 6 kids, but he also had a history of affairs. His wife, Linda, was a well-connected woman, both socially and financially. She had no idea about Jake's infidelity, and Henry planned to use this information to our advantage. Mark, we have a solid case here, Henry said, reviewing the evidence. With the recordings, the photographs, and witness statements, we can make a strong argument in court. Jake's wife will be a powerful ally once she learns the truth. We can also use his affairs to leverage a better settlement for you. I want to ensure Anna gets nothing, I replied firmly. She doesn't deserve a dime after what she's done. We'll do our best, Henry assured me. But we also need to think about the kids. We need to ensure they are provided for, regardless of what happens with Anna. I nodded, appreciating Henry's pragmatic approach. Let's focus on securing full custody for me. The kids need stability, and I don't want them exposed to Anna's reckless behavior. Agreed, Henry said. We'll push for full custody, citing her infidelity and neglect. With our plan in place, I felt more confident about the future. Henry would handle the legal battle while I focused on rebuilding my life and taking care of the kids. Later that week, I received a call from Linda, Jake's wife. She was devastated and furious. Henry had sent her all the evidence we had gathered, and she wanted to meet with me. Mark, I had no idea, Linda said, her voice trembling. I feel so betrayed. Jake has ruined everything. How could he do this to our family? I'm truly sorry, Linda, I replied, feeling a pang of empathy. I know how it feels. But we need to stay strong and focus on what needs to be done. We can help each other through this. I want to support you in any way I can, she said resolutely. Jake needs to face the consequences of his actions. We discussed our strategies and agreed to coordinate our efforts. Linda's connections and influence would be invaluable in the upcoming court battles. Together, we would ensure that both Anna and Jake were held accountable. As the weeks passed, the legal proceedings moved forward. Anna tried to reach out to me several times, begging for another chance. But I ignored her pleas. She had made her choices, and now she had to live with the consequences. My focus was on the kids and ensuring they felt loved and secure. John and Sarah had been asking questions about the changes in our family dynamic. It was time to have an honest conversation with them. One evening, I sat them down in the living room. Kids, we need to talk about something important, I began, taking a deep breath. Your mom and I are going through a difficult time. We've decided to separate. John looked confused, while Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Why, Dad? What happened? John asked. Your mom made some choices that hurt our family, I explained gently. She and I can't stay together anymore, but we both love you very much. That will never change. Is it because of that man she was with? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. I sighed, feeling a deep sadness. Yes, Sarah, your mom made a mistake, and it's caused a lot of pain. But we're going to get through this together. You both mean the world to me, and I'll always be here for you. They both hugged me tightly, seeking comfort and reassurance. We love you, Dad, John said, his voice muffled against my shoulder. I love you too, I replied, holding them close. And we'll be okay. I promise. The days turned into weeks, and slowly we started to find a new normal. I took time off work to be there for the kids, attending their school events and spending quality time with them. I wanted them to feel secure and loved, despite the upheaval in our lives. Linda and I continued to work together, sharing information and strategies. Her support was invaluable, and I was grateful for her strength and determination. She filed for divorce from Jake, using the evidence we had gathered to ensure she got a fair settlement. Jake, faced with the overwhelming proof of his infidelity and deceit, lost everything: his family, his job, and his reputation. Anna, on the other hand, struggled to cope with the fallout of her actions. She lost her job and faced public humiliation. Despite her pleas for forgiveness, I remained resolute. There was no going back. I needed to move forward for my sake and for the sake of our children. One evening, as I was tucking the kids into bed, Sarah looked up at me with big, questioning eyes. Dad, will we ever be a family again? We are a family, Sarah, I said, kissing her forehead. Things might be different now, but we'll always be a family, and we'll get through this together. As I closed their bedroom door, I felt a sense of determination. The road ahead would be challenging, but we would face it together, one step at a time. I had lost a lot, but I still had my children, and they were my everything. With the legal battles mostly behind us and a semblance of routine returning to our lives, I turned my focus to rebuilding a stable and happy environment for John, Sarah, and myself. The journey of healing was just beginning, but I was determined to make the best of our new circumstances. Henry had successfully secured full custody for me, emphasizing Anna's neglect and infidelity in court. Anna was granted supervised visitation rights, but only if she adhered to certain conditions. It was a small victory, but an important one. The kids needed stability, and I intended to provide that for them. Linda and I had stayed in touch, supporting each other through our respective divorces. She had become a good friend, someone who understood the pain and betrayal I felt. Our conversations often turned to the future and how we planned to rebuild our lives. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to take the kids to the park. They needed to feel like normal kids again, to run and play without the weight of our family troubles hanging over them. As I watched them laugh and chase each other, I felt a renewed sense of hope. We were going to be okay. Linda joined us at the park with her children. They had become friends with John and Sarah, and it was heartwarming to see them play together. Linda and I sat on a bench, watching our kids and talking about the future. "You're doing a great job, Mark," Linda said, her voice sincere. "The kids are lucky to have you." "Thanks, Linda," I replied, smiling. "It's not easy, but seeing them happy makes it all worth it." "We've both come a long way," she said, looking out at the playground. "It's amazing how resilient kids can be." "Yeah, they're tougher than we think," I agreed. "And we'll keep pushing forward one day at a time." As the weeks passed, I focused on creating new memories with the kids. We went on weekend trips, explored new hobbies, and spent time with friends and family. I wanted them to remember these times as positive and filled with love, despite the challenges we had faced. One evening, while I was preparing dinner, the doorbell rang. It was Anna, looking disheveled and tired. She had lost a lot of weight and seemed to be struggling. "Mark, can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated but nodded, stepping outside to talk with her on the porch. "What is it, Anna?" "I know I've made terrible mistakes," she began, tears welling up in her eyes. "I've lost everything, and I don't know how to fix it." "Anna, you need to take responsibility for your actions," I said firmly. "The kids and I are moving forward, and you need to figure out how to do the same." "I want to see the kids more," she pleaded. "I miss them so much." "Only if you follow the court's conditions," I replied. "You need to show that you can be a stable and responsible presence in their lives." "I will, I promise," she said, her voice breaking. "I just want a chance to make things right." "We'll see," I said, feeling a mix of pity and anger. "But it's up to you to prove that you've changed." As she left, I felt a sense of closure. Anna had a long road ahead if she truly wanted to rebuild her relationship with the kids. My focus remained on providing them with the love and stability they needed. Months turned into a year, and gradually, our lives settled into a new normal. The kids adjusted well, excelling in school and making new friends. We celebrated birthdays and holidays, creating new traditions that were uniquely ours. The pain of the past slowly began to fade, replaced by a sense of hope and resilience. Linda and I continued to support each other, and our friendship grew stronger. We'd often spent weekends together, our kids forming a close bond. It was comforting to have someone who understood my journey, and together we navigated the challenges of single parenthood. One sunny afternoon, as we watched our children play in the backyard, Linda turned to me and smiled. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" "We have," I agreed, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "And I couldn't have done it without your support." "Same here," she said. "Here's to new beginnings and brighter futures." "To new beginnings," I echoed, raising an imaginary toast. As the sun set, I felt a sense of peace. The road ahead was still uncertain, but we were moving forward, one step at a time. The kids were happy and thriving, and I had found strength and resilience I never knew I had. We had weathered the storm, and now we were ready to embrace whatever the future held.